What's up, everybody? It's Jim, and I'm joined by Jason, the Old Millennial again. And at this time, we've got a first-time guest on my channel, being Hamzah, aka Hamzeebra. How are you both doing?
Everyone. Good to be here.
Yeah.
So excited to finally be on a stream. We've been talking about this for a while, so yeah, great to be here.
It's on our top 5 MCU heroes and top 5 MCU villains. And I think we'll probably start off with the villains. Maybe do the villains first?
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah.
We've already got a couple of things here. We got one by James Rogers. You actually went to the same school as me and Hamzah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in the same. Yeah.
So okay.
Same secondary school. James Spader would make a great. I can't pronounce that name.
Dementio?
I don't know who that is.
Definitely a character I'll have to research after this stream is over.
Yeah. But I'll let you go first, Hamzah, and then you go, Jason.
Okay.
We'll start off with our 5th favorite villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yep. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So number 5. I think this villain doesn't really get talked about a lot, and I think they are actually really good, and I wish that they kind of survived the one film that they were in, because obviously in the comics they're a very prominent villain in the Marvel Universe, and that is Ultron from Avengers Age of Ultron. And the reason I love Ultron is because he was a villain who really kind of was able to take the MCU snarkiness and throw it back into his faces of like, oh, you think you're funny? I can do that too. Well, killing you, basically. And I think that made him a very intimidating and entertaining villain at the same time. So he's just really underrated in general, and I wish he wasn't killed off in Age of Ultron. I have a lot of problems with Age of Ultron that I can get into at another time, but
Yeah, I agree. Definitely is an underrated villain. Yeah,
that's an underrated movie to me. I don't think people like it as much as I do.
Yeah, but I think we all quite like that movie.
I think you guys think I think you guys hold it in a higher regard than I do, but I still like it fine. It's a decent movie.
So. Yeah, I think it's a very good one. But what's your number 5, Jason?
Yeah, I'm number 5. I picked somebody who actually hasn't been in movies, but he's been on TV, and that is Kingpin. I had to throw him in there, even though I was trying to do more movies, but he showed up in the last 2 episodes of Hawkeye, so I think he counts as a villain in the MCU. He also I can never pronounce his name, but what's his name? He has a hard name to say.
The actor?
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio. Yes. D'Onofrio. He is so good as King. Kingpin's such a great villain anyways. Like, I grew up watching like Spider-Man, the animated show in the 90s, and Kingpin was a villain there, and I'm sure he's in the comics and stuff. Like, I usually saw him with Spider-Man is what I usually see him with. He showed up in Daredevil, the Netflix show.
Yeah.
And that's where the actor showed up as Kingpin, and he's my favorite version of Kingpin. We've seen a lot of Kingpins. Michael Clark Duncan played Kingpin, and the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Yeah.
And Kingpin is in Into the Spider-Verse as well. So it's a great villain. He's like the, he's kind of the brains, the conniving guy behind the desk, but he also can fight if he needs to. He's actually like very strong.
Mhm.
Even though he looks like this big fat guy, but he's like really strong, and he can actually go, toe to toe with, like a Spider-Man or a Daredevil, which is really cool. And definitely this version is my favorite, the Vincent D'Onofrio. He's a really good actor here, and he's
Yeah,
so having that evil smile. He has just such a great evil look
Yeah.
in his face or something.
yeah. I first discovered him in the Daredevil Netflix show, and I also grew up watching him in the 90s Spider-Man animated series from the 90s.
Yeah.
And Kingpin was always my favorite Spider-Man villain because he was just a regular dude who had so much resources that made him dangerous. And it's just really intimidating that even someone superhuman can get undermined so easily by someone so human. And the rumor is, which I hope is true, is that Tom Holland has been signed up for, I think, 5 more films, the next
Really?
Avengers films,
Wow.
and one more trilogy, and apparently the trilogy is going to be all about him and Daredevil versus Kingpin, which I think is really cool, especially since now Peter is much more of that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that we're used to, and so I'm really looking forward to what Kingpin does next in the MCU, especially looking forward to Daredevil Born Again. That's one of my Disney Plus shows that I'm really excited for. How about you, Adam? What's your number 5?
Well, before I get to my number 5, I'll have a look at what's going on in the chat, and also I think Kingpin should have been in a few more episodes, in my opinion.
I think we'll see him again, like Hamzebra.
Hope we do. But we got my sister Beth. Hello.
Hello.
We also got James McDuff, first time tuning in.
Yeah, a lot of new names here for me.
James Rogers is saying Ultron had an existential crisis.
I think.
Yeah.
Trying to say.
It's good, but definitely should have had more appearances.
Yeah.
Humpty Dumpty as a mafia boss. Talking about Kingpin.
That's a good comparison, I'm not gonna lie.
And we've got Mike from Did You See That?
Right.
Hello, Mike.
He was just doing a live stream just recently.
Yeah.
He probably just closed it.
Someone will make a good version of both. Young Bumblebee, a movie.
Izuku Midoriya from My Hero Academia, which is a manga series that I read. It's basically anime Marvel, which is great. It's basically a superhero series with anime tropes, which is a glorious combination. So definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't read it or watched it before.
To get to my number 5, which is right here, I've gone with Green Goblin when he appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home. Let me just get the notes up. He's portrayed by Willem Dafoe. Of course, he also played him in Spider-Man, which came out in 2002. It's very unpredictable and also quite a frightening villain as well. You're not sure what he's going to be doing next. And I think Willem Dafoe puts his all into the Green Goblin character. You can tell he's done a really great job playing that character. I think, in my opinion, he should have got an Oscar when he played Green Goblin in Spider-Man 2002. So I thought that was one of the best movie villain portrayals I've ever seen, in my opinion. And I think he's great at giving you a disturbing and unsettling performance here, and he's great at hand-to-hand combat. He's great at using his blinder as well. I'm enjoying when he's gliding around the city with that. So yeah, Green Goblin, my number 5.
Yep, I totally agree.
So we're in our top 4 now, and number 4.
Okay. So do you want to go the same way around, or do you want to go a different?
Yep,
direction?
we'll keep going the same way around.
Okay. So my number 4 is kind of a I'm not sure if other people like him as much as I do, but he's definitely one of my favorites, and that's Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that I'm always a sucker for villains that have a personal connection to one of the heroes. That's why I love Peter Parker so much. And I just think Ego, like, Kurt Russell did such a great job at portraying that warm, welcoming presence during the first and second acts of the film. And then that dark turn at the end was delivered so well. Just the fact that he murdered all of his previous children was just a really striking visual of like how threatening Ego could be if he wanted to be threatening. And then that final battle between Peter and Ego was emotionally charged. So I think James Gunn is very, very good at writing villains that are understandable and have gone through a lot of pain, but are also very, very dark in the head and have a lot of mental issues, ideological issues. But yeah.
Yeah, did you know Ego was going to be the villain when you watched it? Because I didn't really see that coming.
I did. I had a suspicion because I was like, it can't be just the gold chick from the beginning. I was like, because I've been a fan of James Gunn since the start of his career. The only project of his that I haven't watched is Slither, but the first project I watched of his was Super, the indie superhero film that he did, and when I was a kid, and I probably shouldn't have watched it when I was a kid.
That's a messed up movie.
Yeah, but it was definitely a fun watch, and I for sure expected Ego to be the villain because I was like, there was just little dialogue choices here and there that were like for example, when Gamora said, "If he turns out to be evil, we'll just kill him," and I was like,
"Yeah,
you wouldn't have put that line in there for no reason."
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you, Jason?
For my number 4.
Yeah.
Yep, number 4.
Number 4. Adam just mentioned him. It's the Green Goblin. I have number 4. Obviously, yeah, Dafoe plays him. It was so cool because seeing him back when I was like, I don't know, I was just out of high school or I was just a senior in high school when the first Spider-Man came out with Tobey Maguire. And, it's like 20 years ago or whatever, more 20 years. And to see him come back into the role and absolutely kill it again, it was like so cool. I mean, he was my favorite villain of Spider-Man, I would say.
Yeah.
I thought, and it's all William Dafoe. He has such a he has an interesting looking face, and it's so good for the Green Goblin. Like when he turns from the he tries to act like he's kind of a nice guy, and he's like just lost and all this, and then he makes that twist to the evil Goblin. It's so good. He's just so evil looking, and his performances are just really, really good. Anyways, but I always liked the Green Goblin. He's one of my favorite villains for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely my favorite Spider-Man villain. But Mike's list, his favorite MCU villains. He's got Thanos, Hela, Green Goblin, and Doc Ock. Good choices.
Pretty good list there.
Yeah.
And he's got top heroes: Captain America, Spider-Man, and Thor. But any rendition of Spider-Man, right? Well, my number 4. Let's find it. There it is. Is Killmonger. He was in the Black Panther film, which came out in 2018, and of course he's portrayed by Michael B. Jordan. I think he's a villain that you can definitely relate to at times. He's a very emotionally driven character as well. He starts off wanting revenge. He ends up dying, I'd say, quite honorably. And it's quite profound stuff there, in my opinion. I think it's very cool and interesting character overall, and yeah, I think he made the Black Panther movie even better, in my opinion. It was definitely one of my favorite parts of that film.
I totally.
Yeah, that's my number 4.
Great villain.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Right, we're in our top 3 now. So you're number 3, Hamzah.
Okay, sure. Now 3 is when it gets difficult, right? Top 3 is when you really have to dig deep and think about the villains that affected you the most. And in my opinion, number 3 is Loki. Especially when you look at his arc from Thor 1 all the way back to 2011 to his arc in Loki, the TV series, which, by the way, I believe Loki is the most underrated piece of media to come out of Phase 4. I don't think it gets enough love. I think it was really good, and I think people should recognize it as a good part of Phase 4 because it is, in my opinion. He's just such a deep character, so psychologically damaged, so understandable, so pitiable, but also very and extremely entertaining to watch in any. Tom Hiddleston just knocks it out of the park every time he steps into that character. And then when I first heard that they were going to give him a TV show, I was like, yes. And when I heard that there was season 2, I was like, right, now I know what my most anticipated MCU project outside of Guardians 3 is. Because I loved Loki so much. It's probably my favorite Disney Plus show that Marvel Studios has done, outside of another one that we'll get to when we do our top 5 heroes. But yeah, he's just amazing. How about you, Jason?
My number 3, you actually mentioned earlier, and that's Ultron from Age of Ultron. I was happy you said his name as well, because I was like, I don't know, I do feel like he's underrated. I think he's a great villain. I love Age of Ultron. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies, and a lot of it, of course, James Spader. I really like James Spader. He has a great voice, and he's a great villain voice, voicing Ultron. And I just liked Ultron's his whole scheme is actually, I thought, very creative, to pick up a big chunk of the earth and then rise it up and then drop it like a meteor, and that's how he's going to destroy like human life or whatever. And I was like, I don't think I've seen anybody try that before. That's actually a really interesting idea. And anyways, he's kind of funny at times, but still being intimidating, like you said. So I think he's a great villain.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that you both have him in your top 5.
Yep.
But before I get to my number three, James saying Killmonger should have had more screen time dedicated to his character. Yeah, I think I wouldn't have minded maybe a bit more screen time on his character.
Yeah.
But number three, we'll get it up. Here it is. I've gone with the Vulture.
The Vulture. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He was
Very,
played by Michael
very nice
Keaton.
choice.
Yeah.
From, yeah.
He's a villain that doesn't want to take over the world. He's only doing villainous deeds to protect his family, really.
Yeah.
He's a villain that doesn't want. Yeah, I think I've already written it twice. I've written that point twice. He doesn't want to take over the world. He doesn't really want Spider-Man. But just getting confused with what I wrote here. But he's one of the coolest looking MCU characters. I think he's a great threat to Peter Parker as well, and I think Michael Keaton does such a good job playing this character, especially when he's in the car with Peter.
Yeah.
That scene is very intense.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite scenes of that movie. And I think overall he's quite an underrated Marvel villain in my opinion. Yeah, I think Vulture's definitely in my top 5. And yeah, I really enjoyed seeing that character in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
What's funny in the animated show, it was a guy that was trying to find the kind of youth kind of thing.
Yeah.
He was an older guy who, like, I forget exactly, but he took something that made him younger, and he had the vulture wings or whatever. But they changed the whole storyline for Coming Home, whatever, where he's just a guy that had like a business, and he came across some tech that he then turned into these weapons and stuff. So it was interesting. They took it in a different way. But he does show up at the end of Morbius. Have you ever seen Morbius?
Oh no, I've not seen Morbius, but yeah.
Yeah, he shows up at the very end.
In the movie.
I don't know if they're going to do something with him and Morbius in the future. I don't know. Maybe in Venom or something.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was quite interesting. He was in that film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've watched every Spider-Man cartoon in existence for better and for worse, and I think Vulture has always been one of the most interesting Spider-Man villains in like pretty much all the series that I've seen. He's been one of the most compelling ones, and when I saw that the MCU just kind of made him this down on his luck construction worker who
construction
takes a box of scraps and makes something of himself. It's actually pretty inspirational if you take out the whole criminal part. And I appreciate the level of integrity that they gave to the MCU's Vulture, especially in the end credit scene of Homecoming when that guy's like, I heard you, the guy who's meant to be Scorpion apparently is like, I heard you know who he is, and he's like, if I did, he'd be dead already. So he kept a promise to Peter of like, you're a good kid, you saved my life, I'm not gonna rat you out. And I think the best villains are always the most human villains.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. But our top 2 now. Top 2 MCU villains. Right.
Sure.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So this might sound contradictory from what I just said. Number 2, this may be recency bias, but I don't care, is the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is just the biggest piece of trash I have ever seen in a Marvel film. He has no redeemable qualities whatsoever, but the thing is, the actor just portrayed him with such conviction that it's like he was scary. He was a very intimidating villain, and I feel like we wouldn't love Rocket as much as we did by the end of that film if he wasn't such a terrible person. If the High Evolutionary wasn't such a terrible human being. Well, I don't know if he's human. He's probably some sort of alien, or something. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the comic history of that character specifically, but yeah, he's just. I dare say he's the most evil MCU villain. I'm not saying
He's
something.
definitely one of them.
Yeah.
There's a certain big purple nut-sacked Titan that is maybe somehow a little less evil than he is. Yeah, that's saying something. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jason?
My number 2 is definitely a big one that arguably should be number 1, but I like someone just a little bit better. But number 2 for me is Thanos. Obviously, he's the really, really big villain of the MCU. Basically, the main villain from Iron Man to Endgame. It's funny. He just at the end of Avengers, he gets kind of introduced a little bit at the post-credit scenes, and we just kind of get glimpses of him. He doesn't really do until we get to Infinity War, and then when he shows up, he really wreaks havoc. I mean, we see him beat up the Incredible Hulk like it was nothing, and so it really proved like he's really powerful. Interesting villain, of course. He's the snap that killed like half the universe or whatever. That's obviously a huge, huge deal. I mean, the biggest, that's the biggest thing, and it's the whole snap and the what do you call it? Everybody disappearing and coming back. It's been a big, even today, it seems like it's still a big plot point in the MCU of like, what do we do with all these people that came back, and which is interesting. But he's obviously, he's incredibly powerful. He's got a really horrible plot, whatever, to kill off half the universe, basically. But yet he has kind of an interesting motivation behind it that with less people, there's more resources for everybody and food and all that, I guess. And so people should live. He thinks people would live better off if there's less people around, I guess. And part of you is like, yeah, he's got some points there, but then you can't deal with the loss. We can't deal with all that loss that you get from losing all these people, and it ruins everything. So I don't know. It's such a he's evil, but yet at times he doesn't always act evil. I don't know. He has a very distinct, I don't know, way of presenting himself. I don't know how to say it. He's very smart and always calm under pressure, kind of a villain. He doesn't exactly yell at you. He just calmly tells you, "Yeah, this is what I'm going to do." And that fight scene with when he has to fight Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, and he takes them all three out with that cool sword. I mean, that was such a great fight scene that I was like, that really establishes him as one of the great villains. I mean, he was the ultimate villain, to be honest, that they had to destroy at the end of Endgame. But yeah, he had to be on the list. I mean, for what?
Yeah.
For how much he's been through. I mean, he's the guy you knew that he was coming up. I mean, throughout all the movies, you're like, oh, okay, Thanos is going to come at some point. We're going to deal with Thanos, and you're just kind of anticipating Thanos coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll get to my number 2 now, but yeah, I may or may not be talking about Thanos later. But my number 2. Well, sorry, before we do that, yeah, technically, yeah.
He definitely did Ultron, that's for sure. Yeah.
But my number 2 is the Winter Soldier.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he's portrayed by Sebastian Stan. He's basically a humanoid weapon designed to destroy, really. There's a dark and quite depressing backstory as well. But even though he's a killer controlled by Hydra, he still saved Captain America's life at the end of the Winter Soldier film. And he's got an arm that is very strong, and it looks quite cool as well. It's got a cool shine to it. And yeah, it's very fiddly arm he's definitely got. I think it's made from vibranium, isn't it? With Soldier's arm.
Now it is, yeah.
Yeah, the current arm, yeah.
He's very quick at combat as well, and he's great at disappearing without a trace. There's one scene in Civil War when he's behind a bus, and then when a bus moves, he's suddenly gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just don't know where he's gone. But yeah, he's my number 2 for my MCU villains. Let's see what's going on in the chat. DC used to kill most of their multiverses as a whole comic book art.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, I'll be now moving on to our favourite villain in the
Number
MCU.
1 villain.
Yeah. So who's your favourite,
Okay, cool.
Hamzah?
Cool. So, first of all, I'm going to say one honourable mention because I was fighting myself to put them on the list, but I decided to save them for my other list because they can fit in both categories, and that's Wanda Maximoff.
Okay.
Yeah. Scarlet Witch. I just think, other than Gamora, she's probably my favourite female MCU character. And I think she's the most, how do I say this? The most sad MCU character. Like her backstory is just, like, you just feel bad for her all the time because it's like every situation she gets put in Age of Ultron, in Civil War, in Infinity War, in Endgame, she always has in WandaVision, she always has to make tough, horrible decisions, and
Yeah.
either she gets blamed for it or she's told she does the right thing, but she feels horrible about it. And I had a lot of problems with Multiverse of Madness, but Wanda saved that film for me, and she would be definitely one of my favorite villains. Now, onto my actual number 1. Now, if you're asking me who's the best MCU villain, it's Thanos. But if you're asking me who's my favorite, Killmonger. Because Killmonger, when I first saw Black Panther in theaters, when it first came out, I was like, never in a movie have I seen a movie where I agree more with the villain than I do the hero.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe it's because I come from a family of immigrants. Maybe it's because I'm half Middle Eastern. Maybe that's the kind of connection I feel with Killmonger, of like this disdain for the idea of oppression and slavery and dictatorship and everything. But another reason I love Killmonger is he's just so cool. He's so cool. And I don't mean like his powers or his his kind of aesthetic, even though that's pretty cool too. When I say cool, I mean his attitude, the way he carries himself.
Mhm.
Like, my favorite line in the entire film, just because I think it's really cool and very funny, is when T'Challa says, "As you can see, I am not dead," and he just says, "Sup." Like, he doesn't care. He just says, "What's up?"
What's up?
Yeah.
And Michael B. Jordan is one of my favorite actors working today. And the thing that made me love Killmonger even more is the episode of What If that they did about him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy a lot of What If. I only enjoyed like 3 of the episodes: the T'Challa episode, the Killmonger episode, and the zombies episode. Those
Yeah.
were the 3 episodes that I actually enjoyed. I didn't like the rest, but yeah, Killmonger is my number 1.
And he's got a really cool suit transition as well.
Yeah.
Obviously in the movie. Yeah, but great choice
Golden,
for favorite.
golden black is always one of my favorite
Yeah.
color combos. I just think it looks
It's got a really cool outfit. So, what's your favorite then, Jason?
All right.
Who's your favorite MCU villain?
My favorite is Killmonger.
Really?
Hey.
Cool.
Totally agree with what you said. And a lot of it's probably because Michael B. Jordan is such a good actor. Like I said, he's one of my favorite actors out there today. He definitely makes that character. And like I said, he had a great kind of arc to him, you know, of he's kind of made a villain because of T'Challa's dad, what happened there, and that kind of created him as a villain. Because he was just a kid in the projects or whatever, and he had that anger that really drove him and to become a killer. And he kind of just, that anger just, made him, he went to the, I don't know, Marines or something and killed a lot of people. And that's what he got the Killmonger, which is such a great name. I mean, that's a really great villain name, Killmonger. He was just good at killing people, and he did that in like the armed forces, and then went and worked for Claw. What's his name? Claw or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, Ulysses Claw. Yeah.
Is it okay? Yeah, Claw, whatever. And yeah, and I love that the scene like where he's gonna fight T'Challa for the kingship or whatever, and he's kind of telling his story of like all the stuff to get there. And as he's doing it, he's taking off his clothes kind of, and he takes off his shirt and he's got all these bumps all over him.
Yeah.
Like I think after he kills somebody or something like that, he gets like these bumps or something. So he's killed a lot of people because he's got all these bumps or something all over his body. Like that's such a great badass scene where you're like, oh, this guy's like for real, Like you do not want to mess with Killmonger. He doesn't have any superpowers really. He's just really in really good shape and just really knows how to kill people with weapons, guns, swords, whatever. I mean, he defeats T'Challa in the hand-to-hand combat. That's how good he is. But yeah.
The saddest line in that Killmonger says in the movie, in my opinion, and it's perceived as and it's presented as like a badass line in the movie and a really cool villain line is I've killed thousands of my own brothers and sisters on this continent and all this death just so I could kill you.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's so good.
And it's like,
yeah,
wow, your goal has really driven you to become the one thing that you always swore you wouldn't become. And that's really profound and just really sad.
Yeah. That was great.
he's a very well written character as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm just messaging my mum because my dog wants to get out of my bedroom. Right, but my favourite, and I teased that earlier. Before we do that, got James saying Batman and the Winter Soldier crossover. That'd be quite cool. The Killmonger played the mental chess to everyone and got a better end at the climax of the series. Yeah. But my number one, of course, is Thanos. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I made that distinction before I made my number one. We all know the best villain is Thanos, right? But...
Yeah, he's still my favourite. He's, of course, portrayed by Josh Brolin. He has everything you want in a villain, I'd say. And he's very, very powerful and very, very dangerous. And has a clear goal and motive, which you kind of see where he's coming from at times, even though it's still a horrible thing he's doing.
Yeah.
He's written brilliantly and performed brilliantly. Yeah, he's one of the best movie villains of all time, in my opinion, and one of the best comic book villains. Yeah, he would probably always be my number one. I don't think anything's topped him yet. So that's why he's my number one for this. And it's quite cool that you both have Killmonger as your number one. But we all had him in our top five.
We all had it in our top five, yeah.
I think that's the only one we've all had.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the heroes, I've got one anti-hero to talk about. My favourite anti-hero. And that's where I've gone with Loki. Portrayed by Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure where to put him. I wasn't sure whether to put him in a hero as a villain. So I just if there was an in-between category, he would be my favourite on that one.
Yeah, I struggle with Loki and I struggle with Winter Soldier, where to put them.
Yeah. But we're now into the top five heroes. And you can go first, Hamzah, with your fifth favourite MCU hero.
So, number 5, the reason why he isn't high on the list is because we didn't get enough time with him, and that's number 5, Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa. He was... Wow, getting a little emotional here. He was... Like, Chadwick Boseman was the first celebrity death where I openly wept and sobbed at losing someone.
It was very sad.
Someone I didn't know. And he like the actress who played I think not Okoye, what's T'Challa's love interest? Nakia.
I know what you're thinking of.
Said in the tribute video, he wore the crown with dignity, and he really put his all into that role. His first appearance in Civil War, he instantly became one of my favorite characters because, one, I think he's the way he carries himself, he's the most badass Marvel hero in my opinion. Like when he's like, "Don't worry, I'll kill him myself," and stuff like that, and just really cool lines like, "So I ask you this, as warrior and king, how long do you think you can keep your friends safe from me?" And like, stuff like that. Just he did such a good job, and I saw Wakanda Forever, and I thought it was a really good tribute. Despite how I feel about the MCU's current direction, I thought the tribute to him was very well handled. Ryan Coogler did the best he could with the circumstances, in my opinion. And yeah, rest in peace T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman from Wakanda Forever.
Well said. Yeah, great choice. You're number 5, Jason.
My number 5 is T'Challa in Black Panther.
We got another tie here.
Another one, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I mean, obviously, it's his hand-to-hand combat skills are great. I mean, he's great in combat situations like Civil War, and of course Black Panther, the movie. He's got a great suit. I mean, it's a really cool looking suit. And but yeah, character, like I said, he's such a morally good character, and I think that's what I really loved about him. Why I put him here in my top 5. Like one of my favorite scenes is like they got Claw, whatever, and they're interrogating him at like some CIA office or something, and then they get attacked by Killmonger, and I think he throws in some kind of explosive thing or something, and one of the CIA guy, I forget his name now, agent whatever, he jumps in the way and saves. I don't know if it's Nakia or I think maybe he jumps in and saves her, and he gets basically mortally wounded. Like if they don't do anything, he's going to die. And I think the one lady, the bodyguard lady,
Okoye.
She's like, just leave him. We don't have time to deal with him, or we don't want to take him back to our place, because they're very secretive. They don't want anybody from the outside to.
Like he'll leak information, yeah.
So she was like, just leave him to die, and T'Challa was like, no, we can't do that. He just risks his life to save one of us, and so I love that decision that he was like, no, we're going to save him, and so they bring him back so his sister can save him anyways, even if it was against protocol or against their policy. And that made me really like the character. I was like, yeah, he wants to do what is morally right, He's
a very selfless character.
As bad as Killmonger was in his plot, to give out weapons to out revolution, and like even though he made some sense, T'Challa was still like, it's still not morally right to do that, even though it's like, I get where you're coming from, but it's still not morally right to go kill people. And so that's why, I had to put him in here.
He's definitely honorable mention for me. He didn't quite make it in the top 5 for me, but yeah, he is an awesome character though. Get to my number 5. Let's get it right over here. Looking for the heroes. There we go. My number 5 is Doctor Strange. He's of course portrayed by Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's quite a funny character at times, and he's a very powerful character.
Yeah,
he's very wise and very knowledgeable too, and he's got an awesome cape that helps him in tough situations. And I think Benedict does a great job at playing Stephen Strange, and I think the Doctor Strange film, in my opinion, is quite an underrated film in the MCU. I've always found that one pretty great, and I look forward to next time we see Doctor Strange. I can't really get enough of that character. So yeah, he's my number 5.
Which one did you like better?
Which Doctor Strange film?
Yeah,
the first one I actually preferred. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. But now number 4.
Even though I love Sam Raimi as a director, I've loved everything he's done. Still have yet to watch Evil Dead, which I really want to watch. All of the Evil Dead films, but yeah.
Yeah. But you're number 4.
Okay, cool. Number 4. Now, I'll get my honorable mentions out of the way now before I forget, because I legit just forgot what my honorable mentions were, and if I don't say what they are right now, I'll probably forget what they are, and I'm going to excuse them. My 2 honorable mentions are Wanda, once again, and also Gamora, because Gamora is kind of a anti-hero, so I debated putting her on the heroes list per se. But number 4 is a very recent character. I only got recently introduced to them very, very recently, and that's Moon Knight.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, okay.
Because I
Nice.
think the idea that so to give a little context, my family has a massive. My mum's side of the family, especially, has a lot of mental health history. So my mum has clinical depression. My brother has what's it called? He has basically a unique form of anxiety. I have social anxiety, claustrophobia, agoraphobia, and depression, as well as my, cerebral palsy, which is a condition that causes me to be wheelchair bound whenever I'm not like in bed or whatever, and I just love the idea of a superhero. Because one of my biggest issues with Harley Quinn, as much as I love Harley Quinn, is that they treat her mental illness as if it is a superpower. And it's not. It's just who they are as a person. It's something it's something that's part of them. It's part of their personality, and that's what I love about Mark/Steven, is that it's just an extension of themselves. It's not their superpower. They're a superhero outside of their mental condition. If anything, their mental condition just enhances their uniqueness as a superhero, which is really cool. And also being half Middle Eastern, I like how Layla and Mark/Steven are both representations for the Middle Eastern community and the Jewish community. I think that's really cool. And we technically get another British superhero because Stephen believes he's British.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Oscar Isaac, I think, is a really underrated performer.
Yeah.
He does fantastic as Moon Knight.
And I think he did a really great job with the 2 roles. He also said he originally wasn't gonna do any MCU stuff. He originally wasn't interested, but when they came to him with the character of Moon Knight, he was like, "Oh, so I get to play multiple characters? Okay, cool. That's really interesting. Okay, I'm into that." Yeah, I just think he's really cool and a very unique hero, and I can't wait to see him in more stuff. Hopefully, I'm hoping that he'll be in Avengers. I really want him to be in Avengers. I think he would be a really interesting comedic addition, especially since we're not going to be seeing much of the Guardians anymore. I feel like we need a new comedic presence to kind of fill in that role of that big out there weird comedic presence. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they said anything what they're going to do with that character. Moving on.
Hope to see more of Moon Knight though, because
they left the show on a cliffhanger, so it seems like
that
they
as
could
well
go somewhere. But
yeah, I think they have announced season 2, I believe. So that is happening right now. But I hope that he appears in Avengers. Anyway, what's my number 5, Jason?
Did you say they have or they haven't?
They have, I believe.
They have. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to watching season 2 of Moon Knight.
All right, my number 4 is Thor.
Okay.
Yes.
One of the kind of original Avengers, played by the great Chris Hemsworth. I mean, he has such a great look to him. Of course, Hemsworth is totally jacked. It looks great. I love Milner, the hammer. It's such a great weapon.
Yeah,
My favorite in the MCU. And the character has definitely kind of changed a little bit over from the first movie on to now. Well, he's also kind of been more comedic lately. I loved him in Thor Ragnarok. That's my favorite Thor movie. One of my favorite MCU movies.
Yeah, I can see you've got a poster in your background somewhere, I believe.
I got a poster.
Maybe I'm misreading one of your posts. One of your posters looks like the kind of front
One of
cover.
these?
Yeah. What's
I
that?
have the Top Gun Maverick poster there.
Oh, Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
They've got very similar colors.
Apologies.
It is, yeah. It's very similar. You're right, yeah. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok, I just love the character. It's so fun and really well written. I love Taika Waititi's take on it. And unfortunately, Thor and Love and Thunder didn't really land with me. The jokes didn't land as
Me
much.
neither. I
I think he definitely tried too hard in that film
Yeah.
to be as funny as Ragnarok.
I heavily anticipate that film, and there were a few key elements that didn't really land with me. Like, for example, like the fact that Chris Hemsworth said that he wanted to step away from the role. I was like, okay, so Jane's taking over. That'll be good. At least we'll have a Thor, and then they kill off Jane, and Thor's still there, and I'm like, okay, so what are they going to do with him going forward then? Because they can't just acknowledge that he's not there, although I suppose that they'll have to, considering since Chris Hemsworth unfortunately got that news that he might have Alzheimer's in the near future. So he said in his document at the end of his documentary where he got the news that he's like 10% more likely to get Alzheimer's than the average person, is that he wants to take a break from acting for a few years to focus on spending time with his family. So I respect that. If he wants to step away from Thor, obviously family is the most important thing. And I really didn't like Love and Thunder for one really big crucial reason, is that they wasted the Guardians. I thought that there'll be so much more potential in a Taika Waititi Thor Guardians team up movie. That would have been amazing. Like, because originally Thor was supposed to be in Guardians 3 before James Gunn got fired, and Thor was supposed to feature a lot more in that. So that was the main reason why they paired them in Endgame. And then by the time James Gunn got hired, James Gunn was like, yeah, I don't really have enough room in my script to kind of finagle Thor in there. So Taika was like, okay, I guess I have to pluck at this plot thread, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And then he did nothing with it. And I saw a really cool video that I recommend to both of you by a channel called Full Fat Videos. I definitely recommend their MCU essays and stuff. And they made a video about how Peter Quill and Gore should have met and had a scene together, because he was like, because they talk about how Gore should have looked at the Necro Sword when he was like standing up against Peter and was like, you're different, there's godly energy in you. And he's like, oh yeah, my dad was a god. And then he's like, you must, a god losing his power, that's rich. How did you lose it? It must have been a selfish reason. And Jax is like, no, he gave it up to save everyone. And he's like, that's impossible. A god can't be selfless. And he's like, that one is. And I just think that would have been a really cool idea.
Oh,
It
yeah.
would have serviced Quill as a character, made him more likable, and also given more depth to Gore as a villain as well. Because I think Christian Bale did a really good job, but didn't get enough material to work with, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, at the end of Endgame, yeah, it was like Thor was going to go off with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I expect him to be in like the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I think he should have been. I think he would have been a great addition to the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. In fact, I would have loved to see him in there because he did a lot with them in Infinity War as well. They teamed up pretty well, but yeah, that didn't do as well. But yeah, I still love the character. Love Milner. Love the whole getting lightning and how he uses lightning as a weapon is really cool. Obviously, the fight with Incredible Hulk is such a great fight. Such a good rivalry between the two. I love all that. Even the first movie, I love when he goes and fights the Frost Giant. I think that's such a great scene. Um, how he uses it, how he swings it, and he's able to even fly basically by swinging the hammer so fast. And just the different ways he uses that. Of course, later on he uses like the axe that he has to use, but which is also a decent weapon. But yeah, he's a character that really grew on me. I think, and I especially Thor Ragnarok. That's when I really fell in love with the character, and he's been one of my favorites.
Very cool. Right, before I get to my number 4, let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Thor the Optimus Prime, the upcoming Transformers film next year.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be the voice.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah. Right. So
That's interesting. That's a very interesting casting choice. I'm very intrigued.
I'll have to see what that sounds like. Yeah, man. My number 4 is Star-Lord, who was going to be my number 3 about a day ago. He was my number 3, but last minute I changed number 4 and 3 around. But I'll explain why I switched that around in a little bit. But of course, he's portrayed by Chris Pratt and got amazing taste in music. Star-Lord has when it comes to the 70s music, in my opinion, and he's very relatable and fun character to see. He also has 2 sort of like space pistols on him, and they look pretty cool. And he's a character that's got a lot of heart and emotion to him. He's very enjoyable to watch, and the song that makes me think of him the most is the song "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone, which came out in 1973. It's crazy that was 50 years ago that song came out. He was my favorite Guardian, but I changed my mind. I think it's just I'll explain why later on in this live stream. But number 4 is Star-Lord.
Yeah, it's hard to pick because there's so many good Guardians. They're all pretty good.
Yeah. But now on to our top 3. Here we go.
Okay. Sorry, are you saying it's my turn to do number 3?
Yeah, it's your turn now. That's all right.
Just taking a drink from my water for a second.
That's all right.
Okay, number 3. He would have been my number 1, aside from a few issues I have with the MCU's specific treatment of the character, and that is Spider-Man. I have loved Spider-Man ever since I was like 3 years old, 4 years old. He has always been my fave. I think he might be my favorite fictional character ever, just because he's, in my opinion, the most relatable character in fiction. Like, everyone can find one piece of themselves in either Peter Parker or Miles Morales, and even if they can't, they can find relatability in the idea of the mantle of Spider-Man. My main my main issues with the MCU's portrayal of Spider-Man is that whenever he's in other than No Way Home, which in my opinion fixed MCU's Peter Parker in terms of his portrayal and the Peter Parker that I like. In Homecoming and Far From Home, he didn't really feel like Spider-Man to me. He just felt like, oh, we need an Iron Man sidekick. What surrogate character can we use? You know what? Let's just use the most popular Marvel character and make him Iron Man's Robin, basically. And I was not a fan of that whatsoever. I really didn't like the idea of Peter like often looking up to other heroes and being like, I want to be like you. Can't another Avenger go save people? I want to go on vacation. And it's like, literally before you met Tony, you were saving people for 6 months on your own, and you didn't have to. You chose to do that. My biggest flaw with the MCU Spider-Man is that whenever he's not in a Spider-Man movie other than No Way Home, he acts like the Spider-Man I would want him to act like. Like Civil War, he was like, no, I want to help. But even when he got like really beat up, he was like, no, I'm not done. No, I'm not done. And I'm like, you're not afraid to fight Avengers, but you're afraid to fight Elementals. Okay. Yeah, stuff like that. And in Infinity War, when Tony tried to send him home, and he's like, you can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood. And then in Far From Home, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, okay, that's a drastic character shift. I mean, I understand that you died technically, but even when you came back in Endgame, you were still more than happy to go headfirst into death anyway because you're Spider-Man and you want to help people. And that's like the dividing trait of your character is that you don't care about the odds. You want to help people however you can. And but let's get into things that I actually do like about MC's Spider-Man. Tom Holland is obviously great in the role. I think my biggest criticism of Spider-Man castings for years and years and years was that they picked actors who were way too old for a high schooler. And when they announced that like Tom Holland was 19, I was like 18 when he auditioned and 19 when he got the role. I was like, perfect, great. You could play it for like 10 to 15 years without us having to suspend our disbelief. Great. Especially in No Way Home, I thought his performance was spectacular, and I really do think that when it comes to Peter Parker actors, I think he's the best. When it comes to Peter Parker specifically, I think he gets the vibe down. The only reason why I don't think Tobey Maguire isn't as good Peter Parker as Tom Holland is because he was so old when he started playing the character. So from the first viewing of the original Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, I was like, he looks like a 30-year-old man. He doesn't look like a 15-year-old. But yeah, Peter Parker has always been my favorite character in fiction. My favorite iteration of Peter Parker, specifically in recent years, is the PlayStation PS4 game. I'm so excited for the sequel. I cannot wait for what they're going to do with Venom. The rumors is that they're gonna like Harry Osborn Venom, which I think is really interesting.
Please.
Instead of Eddie Brock, which is very interesting. And I love Miles as well. Miles,
Yeah.
I actually relate to Miles a lot more than I relate to Peter because he's mixed race, I'm mixed race. My uncle's called Aaron, his uncle's called Aaron, which is pretty funny. And he's an aspiring musician, and I'm an aspiring musician, so we relate a lot. But yeah, that's my number 3. Sorry if that was long-winded. I just had a lot to say.
Big. You had a lot to get out then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree that the best time we saw that version of Spider-Man was in No Way Home. Yeah. But, yeah, what number? I can't remember what number we're on.
Number 3.
Number 3.
3. Yeah.
My number 3 is Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker.
Oh.
Boy, I don't know what to say now. He's always been one of my favorite characters since I was a kid. Like you said, I dressed up as Spider-Man for Halloween when I was like 5 or something. You know. Of course, I fell in love with the animated series when I was a kid in the '90s. And that's really where and I even had like Spider-Man comics, and yeah, so he's definitely been one of the greats. I don't know what it is. He just, I mean, the powers are just cool. The web slinging, the way he swings, like it's so fun. Like both watching it in movies and stuff, where the camera follows him as he swings, you know, on skyscrapers, you know, and like you mentioned the game. I love the video game, the Spider-Man video game, and the funnest thing about that game is just swinging around. Like I just swing around and run up buildings and jump off them just for fun in that video game.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah, very satisfying. That's the funnest thing, anyways. But yeah, the web sling is so great. The spider sense is a really great power. It's really interesting. But he's just a really fun character. He's fun.
His quips were always my favorite part. Just the little snide comments.
Yes, very funny and quippy. Like Civil War, he was so good in because he comes in and he's like so excited, and he says he's like, you know, Captain America's shield. He's like that shield doesn't, you know, follow physics or something. And it's like in the middle of battle, and he's throwing out these lines and like have you ever seen that really old movie Empire Strikes Back? Like. It's so many great stuff like that, and it's like I don't know, yeah, because he's young, he's youthful. It's kind of fun because everybody's like, "Where did you get this guy?" Like, but yeah, it was great when he came in Civil War, and like I said, Tom Holland I think was a great Spider-Man. Really did a good job with that. I mean, I really like Andrew Garfield as well. He's always I enjoyed that actor. But yeah, Tom Holland did a great job. Like I said, No Way Home is one of my favorite movies. His portrayal, great. Some really, you know, there's the tragicness to the Spider-Man character, which is very interesting. They really delve into that in No Way Home. You know, they all dealt with death in the family, and so he's got some sadness to him as well that they do a really good job. And Holland actually does a really good job acting-wise, I thought, in No Way Home. But yeah, like I said, yeah, it's hard not to put him in this list. He's always been a favorite of mine. Like for me, it was Batman, Spider-Man, and Wolverine were like my 3 favorites as a kid.
Yeah, it was probably always Batman and Spider-Man for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll get to my number 3, which it was originally my number 4, and that is Rocket Raccoon. The reason why I've got him ahead of Star Wars is because of the character arc. Really, I think Rocket's had just a bigger journey than Star Wars has, and he's Rocket's of course portrayed by Bradley Cooper, and Rocket's got a very emotional backstory that probably always brings tears to my eyes every time I watch that. And he's very intelligent and very funny and cool. He's got so many funny lines, and he always likes to have his giant weapons. And, yeah, I think that's really cool. He's got a great relationship with all the Guardians, especially Groot. Him and Groot are very close, and Bradley Cooper does an incredible voice as Rocket and performance as Rocket. I think Rocket is my favorite Guardian. But when I did a video, did say it was Star-Lord, but the more I thought of it, the more I thought, yeah, I think it is Rocket. Yeah, and he made it
he
into my
really
top
is a
3.
great character.
Yeah.
I honestly think, and this might be me just hyping up James Gunn a bit too much because James Gunn is one of my idols. But I think Rocket Raccoon is some of the best CGI in the last
Yeah.
10 years. I do not see CGI when I see that character.
Yeah.
I see
Especially
a
in Volume
talking
3.
raccoon.
Yeah. He does look really real and
That's
really
a good
cool.
point. Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah. We're now into our top 2.
Number 2.
Yep. Number 2. My number 2 is Peter Quill, Star-Lord. Because I think he's the most relatable MCU hero, and I didn't think anyone could be more relatable than Peter Parker, but he's whereas Peter is like the relatable, has the most relatable positive traits within most people. I think overall Peter Quill is the most relatable hero in the MCU because he's flawed, but also there are things that you like about him. And I think that his character arc throughout the 3 movies is really subtle, but also really well done. Of like, the reason why he is the way he is because he's been running away from his trauma basically all his life and basically pretended like none of it mattered. One of my favorite things about Peter is that he's just a regular dude. Like in the universe of sorceresses who can bend reality and like wizards who can like make portals everywhere and like a person with DID who can throw moon knives and stuff like that. He's just a regular dude. James Gunn said in the commentary track for the first movie that if he was to like tell people what Peter Quill's power was, if he had a superpower, it would be the ability to fuck up spectacularly and then regain his composure quickly enough to do something vaguely heroic. That and that's what I love about Peter is that like that scene in Infinity War when after they're finished like sending Squidward out into space and the Guardians and Avengers meet for the first time and he's basically just kicking everyone's asses. It just shows how smart Quill can be when he's not up his own ass, which is so great. And I'm going to miss him and the Guardians together. I'm glad that we'll get to see Chris Pratt as Star-Lord again, but I don't think it will ever feel as good with just him on his own. Which is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because they did confirm in the second end credit scene of Guardians 3, the legendary Star-Lord will return. They didn't say the Guardians will return, they said the legendary Star-Lord will return. So I'm very interested to see what Chris Pratt's going to do.
I found that very interesting as well.
Yeah, I know Batista and
Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana doesn't want to come back because the makeup work is too much.
Yeah.
I don't
Which I
blame them.
respect.
Yeah.
It seems like their character arcs are pretty much like done. So
Yeah, Star-Lord doesn't have quite that much makeup, so he's a little bit easier probably for Chris Pratt to come back. And
I definitely hope Bradley Cooper comes back because
yeah, I would think.
yeah.
Well,
Because I feel
Guardians.
like Marvel. Because the rumor mill is that they signed Marvel Studios signed Ryan Reynolds up for like the longest MCU deal in history. I think he's contracted to do like 10 films.
Yeah.
Because like most of them are just going to be done for cameos where he's like, hey, and stuff like that. So I think if they got Bradley Cooper up to a deal like that where he just appears in a bunch of team-up movies or cosmic movies as like a supporting character or something like that, that'd be cool. Yeah, that's my number 2.
Yeah. Cool.
What about you, Jason?
My number 2 is Captain America, aka Steve Rogers.
Very nice pick. Very good pick.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm an American, so I love the name Captain America. I love the costume. It's probably my favorite costume of all the superheroes. I love the shield. The shield is so awesome. The whole design and what they do with the shield. It's such a cool look because shield is like a defense weapon, yet they made it an offensive weapon as well. But yeah, the Captain America just looks so great, and Chris Evans just totally kills it as the character. It's such a great casting. He looks great. But it's such a great character.
A lot of the people didn't think he was going to do a good job when he first got cast because he was like, this guy's known for comedies and like playing Human Torch before.
Yeah, Human Torch.
Douchebag. So how is he going to play the epitome of Boy Scout? And then he knocked it out of the park, which was awesome.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, like, suppose with a lot of these actors, like Chris Evans was like an actor I kind of knew who he was, but Human Torch is probably what I knew him for. But Captain America, I mean, that made his career. I mean, he can work for a long time because of Captain America. Has made him a A-list star now in Hollywood. Because he did such a good job. I mean, he just totally nailed the character, and I love the character again because I feel like he's such a morally good character, and that's what's important to him. Obviously, he has this good story arc of he was a scrawny kid that got bullied all the time, and so that kind of shaped him to want to fight for people that are bullied or are persecuted, whatever, treated badly. And so that's just such a great character arc or character trait for them. And I love that they give him the superhuman serum, not because he's a good fighter or anything, but because he has a good heart and he's got this good moral compass to him.
Yeah. My favorite line from the first Captain America movie is, "Promise me one thing: you will not remain a good soldier, but a good man. Stay a good man."
Okay.
Like that's the epitome of his character.
Oh, exactly. That's what makes him a great hero. He's a soldier who answers orders, but ultimately he does what he thinks is morally the good choice. He's non-corruptible. It seems like you can't corrupt Captain America. He just his ideals are just too high for that. And of course, his fighting skills. I mean, Winter Soldier. That's what made me fall in love with Captain America. When that movie was like, man, he looks so cool. The fight scenes were really great in that movie. That elevator fight scene, amazing.
So good.
The fight scene highway with Winter Soldier is one of the best action scenes I think in all MCU.
Yeah.
And then you get the Civil War, of course, and there's lots of great fight scenes in that.
The fight scene between Steve, Bucky, and Tony at the end of Civil War is my favorite. It's my favorite MCU fight scene, I think.
That is a great scene. especially with emotional stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Civil War is so good. But yeah, and then when you get to Avengers Endgame and he's fighting Thanos and he's getting his butt kicked, and he's still willing to fight. And he of course he has the great line, I can do this all day. He says all these movies.
Very iconic.
I love the callback of every time he says that. I can do this all day.
And I love how in Endgame he's like, I can do this all day. Yeah, I know.
I know. Yeah, I know. But yeah, and he's really the leader. He was really the leader of the Avengers because I guess of his military background. But so I mean, he's such an important part of the whole Avengers series. I think besides his own movies. He's What more can I say?
Well, before I get to my number two, we've got Joseph. Hello, Joe. It's the best Spider-Man, Tom Holland. Very controversial pick, but he's the most believable character. It actually looks like a high school kid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's villain Thanos.
Yeah.
He agrees with me there.
Yeah.
One character from Marvel and one character from DC. Would you like to see crossover in the same movie?
Ooh, that's a very good question, Joe.
I'll let you go first, Jason.
Mm-hmm. Well, it'd have to be Batman as my favorite DC character, I feel like. But who would he be good with? Maybe the Guardians or something would be a great mashup.
Yeah. I was gonna say that too, so I'll say something different. I would like to see the Guardians mix it up with the Teen Titans. I think that would be really cool. Because especially the team from Young Justice. I don't know if any of you have seen that animated show, but it's the same team behind the Spectacular Spider-Man series, which is one of the best Spidey cartoons. But yeah, I would love to see them mix it up with the Teen Titans. Actually, no, I will change my answer because I just thought of another DC team that would be a great fit with them, and that's the Doom Patrol. I don't know if any of you have seen Doom Patrol.
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it.
But I think I definitely implore you both to go watch Doom Patrol. It's amazing. They're basically DC's. They're basically. How do I explain them? They're basically the X-Men if Professor X was like a mad scientist who likes to fuck up his victims rather than make them better. So basically the High Evolutionary, except he actually cares about his victims that he messed up, which it's really fun. There's a girl with 16 personalities, and every personality has a different superpower. Brendan Fraser plays a guy who was a famous race car driver in the 80s who got in a car accident with his family and only his brain remained, and the doctor put his brain in a robot suit and he can't smell or feel anything. And there's a guy from the 70s who was in a plane crash and his body is just filled with radiation, so he's wrapped in bandages. And then there's an actress from the 40s who who fell into like a toxic swamp or something, and she whenever she turns insecure, her body turns into this ugly, disgusting blob thing. So I'm like, if James Gunn wanted to do anything with them, I'd be very happy with that because those characters seem very much up his alley, just broken people. So yeah, that'd be a really fun team up. Doom Patrol and Guardians, hell yeah. What about? Did you say yours, Adam? I can't remember if you did.
I'll just quickly say mine, and I'll go with Captain America and Superman.
Okay. Very
that
American.
would be really fun, actually. Yeah.
Superman from Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what James Gunn will do with Superman.
Superman.
Murdoch and Brainiac as a crossover.
Oh yeah, Murdoch and Brainiac. That would be interesting.
Why is Gamora? Very funny.
Yeah, one of the best gags in a MCU movie, in my opinion.
What is going on?
Dave Bautista, I will miss him. I will miss him dearly. I've followed his career since the WWE because I'm a massive wrestling fan. So so I will miss him very dearly in the MCU.
You're both very big into your wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Since the 90s.
I'm going to AEW All In August, so I'm very excited about that. I'm going to Wembley to go see it. So my very first, I guess, stadium show, concert / show. Where I get to go see something live, so that'll be very fun. Anyway.
Right, we'll get to my
time for
number
number ones, right, guys?
Well, we're going to get to my number two first.
Sure, yeah.
I'll be pretty quick though, because it's the same as Jason.
Yeah.
So, of course, portrayed by Chris Evans. He's a very courageous character and kind and caring. He's a very selfless character as well, and relates to the everyman, and strong both mentally and physically, and is willing to sacrifice to ones he loves. His character definitely ends with a satisfying note. I look forward to seeing how Falcon now does the Captain America. Sam Wilson. I look forward to seeing what he's going to do with Captain America.
I'm interested in that too.
Me too.
I do love it when Captain America says, "I could do this all day." When he sees himself in Avengers Endgame, there's so many funny quotes there. Yeah, I love that scene. But he's my number two. And now we'll get into our number one.
Yeah.
Our favorite MCU hero. And off you go, Hamzah.
Number one is very unorthodox. I don't think this will be many people's number one, but he is to me and in my heart. It's Rocket Raccoon.
Rocket.
And I think it's because, in my opinion, he's the most complex MCU character, like the most, and also the most subtly written. I had to watch Volume 1 and Volume 2 multiple times over to kind of pick up the pieces of like, oh, I see what he's doing, like why he's such a douchebag and so afraid of letting people care about him and stuff. I relate to Rocket so much for many reasons. It's because sometimes, especially with my depression, I feel like my brain tells me that you're broken, your body's broken, you were born with no purpose, except for other people to do everything for you. And me and Rocket kind of share that same self-loathing a lot of the time. And when I was in school, because when I was in like high school, you would call it high school, Jason. Over here in Britain, we call it secondary school. So like from ages 11 to 16 in school, I just pushed everyone away and I didn't really let anyone in because for the first few years of high school, everyone wasn't honest with me and everyone like pitied me a lot and weren't honest about their feelings about me, and so I would hear a lot of mean things second-handedly rather than straight from the person. So for many years in high school, I just didn't interact with many people other than Adam and a few others, and I always cry whenever I watch the scene in the first movie where he's like she can't be Roman, he can't be Roman, and he's like, I didn't ask to get made, I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turn into some little monster, and I especially my favorite line in the third movie, because it exemplified how I felt at my lowest point, is when he's talking to Lila and she's like, you can't come with us yet, you still have a purpose here. And then he's like, a purpose for what? He made us for nothing. And she's like, because you are people who love you and still need you. And I relate to that a lot. And the fact that the thing that he was so desperate not to be called a raccoon is something he takes pride of by the end, because I've been called a retard many times in my life and I hate that word, but now, especially when I'm doing music and stuff, I call myself the retard who raps, ironically, because it's basically a contradiction to the notion that I am a retard in a way, because if you look at the definition of the word, it's slow, it's an inability to do something, it's, not as smart as other people, not as cognitively aware as other people, whereas everything I do is a contradiction to that. So now I ironically call myself a retard as a way to stick it to the people who used to call me that, so that now whenever someone calls me that, it doesn't register in my brain, because that word means nothing anymore, because I made such a joke out of it and taken pride out of it, and me and Rocket feel a bit of a kinship in that way. So yeah, that's why he's my favourite character.
Yeah, it's definitely a character that I think a lot of us could relate to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What I love about Rocket, like I said, is that he's obviously a raccoon, but he gets so upset when you call him a raccoon throughout the series. And I never understood it, because I'm like, well, you are a raccoon. But yeah, he hated that. My favorite scene is in the holiday special, if you've seen that, where they kidnap Kevin Bacon, and when he finally realizes where he's at, and he's freaked out because he's in an alien planet with all these aliens, and he's like, oh my God, and Rocket tries to soothe them and says, don't worry, nobody's going to hurt you here. And Kevin Bacon goes, it's a talking raccoon. And Rocket goes, I'm going to kill you.
I think the reason why he was so averse to being called a raccoon is because he didn't know what a raccoon was.
Right.
So he was like, "Is that bad? I don't know if it's bad." That's why in the second movie where he's like, "I'm sorry, I meant trash panda." Is that worse? Yeah, it's worse.
Way worse.
It's
definitely way worse. I rewatched Guardians 2 recently, and
really?
I remember that scene. Yeah, I forgot it was in it.
It's so funny just how he turns, like he can turn just like that, right? Rocket. Just.
But got a couple of things to say before you move on to your number one, Jason, and that's one of them about Rocket Raccoon. I just looked it up then to make sure I was right, but he's called Rocket Raccoon because of the Beatles song Rocky Raccoon.
Yeah, I always wondered that.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and I think that is the case.
Okay,
that's cool.
Yeah,
the second thing I'll say is, for people watching, do apologise about the bad language on this live stream. But I might change the description. I'd say there's some bad language in this live stream, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
Yeah,
it just sometimes happens. But let's see what's going on in the chat before you continue, Jason.
Yeah.
So James is going now. Good night, James.
Bye, James.
Right. Have a good evening.
So off you go, Jason.
My number one, it's the original Tony Stark, or Iron Man, aka
Yeah,
Stark.
understandable. He is the OG.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's where it all started with Iron Man back in I think 2008 when I first saw that movie. And it was interesting because Iron Man's not really he's not an A-list, superhero. I would say he's more of a B-list. Like I've seen him in the comics here and there. Don't really know a lot about Tony Stark. I haven't seen a lot about him. So when they were doing an Iron Man movie, I'm like, really, Iron Man? Like, man, they're really, why are they starting with such a, B-list character? And then Robert Downey Jr. wasn't really a big actor at the moment. He was in stuff, but he wasn't, again, an A-list actor, I would say, at the time.
yeah, and also he was dealing with his just getting out of rehab and cleaning himself up from his addiction from the 90s and late 80s and stuff. So that's, in hindsight, that's probably one of the reasons why they cast him, because Tony Stark in comics is often depicted as an alcoholic.
An alcoholic.
Drug addict. So
yeah, and so I mostly knew Robert Downey Jr. as being a drug addict and going to rehab, and I really hadn't seen that much stuff with him. So I was like, not sure how Iron Man was going to go, but man, it blew me away when I first saw it. I mean, not only Jon Favreau did just a great job, and Downey Jr. was so perfect. If you're talking about great casting, that was one of the best casting choices I think ever made. Because Robert Downey Jr. is so funny, and yet is also very good in the emotional moments as well. He's a really good actor. But I didn't know how funny he was, and Iron Man was so funny. From the very first scene, he really set the tone of how funny the character is. Just sitting back in the army Humvee, talking to those soldiers. It was a funny scene. And you just go, wow, I don't know, I really love this character. And then you love the fact that, of course, when he kind of gets captured and he gets out, and then he looks at his life and decides to change his ways a little bit, to be more serious and to use his technology for good instead of just selling weapons. He decides that he's going to change his ways and of course build the Iron Man suit and go help people. And I love that character arc in that first movie is one of the best, and it's a great movie. And I just love that part where Pepper Potts is like doesn't want him to go because he'll be in danger, and he's like, man, I finally found my purpose. He has some line, I forget, but he has such a great line of like, you don't want me to go, but I just now find my purpose in life basically is to go use my technology to help people. And I just love that whole arc of his character.
Yeah. I will say one of the only flaws with his performance is that I feel like now whenever a actor takes on the role of Iron Man for a video game or a series, they're always either directed or make the personal choice to basically do a imitation of RDJ's iteration, and I'm always like,
I agree.
why not do something unique? I'd prefer if they
did their own thing,
because you're never going to top RDJ at this point, so you might as well do something radically different with the performance.
Yeah. And what I love about him is he's like probably the smartest guy in MCU. I mean, he's just a technology genius. Builds an arc reactor, whatever, in a cave. And, so I just love that about the character. Is just he didn't have superpowers. He's just a super genius who's great at technology and creating things. And he's from the very beginning. I mean, he's been the major character in the whole MCU from that to Endgame, of course. And he's really the emotional core of the whole MCU for me. And I love that he goes from this very selfish, character, this playboy, selfish, who's always partying, to this guy that's going to sacrifice his life for others. And he basically almost does it in Avengers. He's willing to sacrifice his life to save New York from that nuclear bomb that they're trying to hit. And of course, in Endgame, he makes like the ultimate sacrifice. So it's like, how can you? I don't know, like that's why I love him so much is the willing to sacrifice his life for others. It's such a great, trait for him. Besides being just one of the funniest characters in the whole MCU, and even in Civil War, you look at Civil War, he has some great emotional moments with, Captain America, like you mentioned, at the very end, where, it's like, when he finds out what happens to his parents from Winter Soldier, and he looks at Captain America and he's like, "Did you know?" Like, oh, that scene gets me every time. I'm like, man, that's a powerful scene because you can really see it on Robert Downey Jr.'s face how hurt he is at that moment. And even when he's going after Winter Soldier, and Captain America is like, "He's my friend," and Tony Stark says, "So was I." I mean, so many great moments in that whole scene.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments from that scene is because you don't really see Tony get like mad a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like Steve is like, it's not his fault. The scientist had control of his mind, and he just yells, "Move!" And
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, this guy's pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, he has the best.
Yeah, but my favorite line is when he's like, Steve says something like, don't do this. It's like something to that effect. He's like, "I don't care. He killed my mom."
Yeah. Great line. Very emotional. Yeah, because you get it. I'm like, I want to kill one too. And he has so many good. His nicknames are some of the best. Like he called one guy Squidward, I think he said.
Thanos' minion, Squidward, his little advisor dude who they sent out into space.
Yeah, I remember he called Hawkeye Legolas at one time. I always loved that. He called the Winter Soldier like the Manchurian Candidate or something. I don't know. He just has so many great, funny nicknames.
My favorite one is when he looked at Rocket for the first time and was like, "For a second there, I swore that you were a Build-A-Bear."
Yeah, that in game. Yeah.
God, I would have loved to see Tony interact with Rocket more. I feel like that would have been an underrated pairing, both super mechanical geniuses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I'll move on to my number one. But it's not Iron Man. I'm not a big fan of that character. My number one Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl?
No, it's Iron Man. Iron Man's definitely my favorite.
Iron Man? All right.
Yeah. Love Iron Man. Of course, portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. I've probably said "of course" loads of times in this live stream. I've said the word "of course" loads. He has quite a character journey throughout all the films, and he's performed brilliantly. He's charismatic and very entertaining to watch. He's very intelligent and great at using technology, as well as making loads of cool, really inventions. Loads of cool inventions, such as Jarvis and the Hulk Buster, of course.
Yeah.
And he's really good at getting out of tough situations. And it went from the first film just sort of caring about himself and his business to willing to sacrifice himself for the world. It's a very powerful journey he has, and very, very, very sad. It's a very emotional ending to his character, but a very, very satisfying and earned one. Yeah, for all those reasons, he's my favorite character in the MCU. Up there with my favorite movie characters, to be honest.
Yeah.
And there we go. We ranked our top 10 MCU heroes, but top 5 MCU heroes and top 5 villains. Do you guys have any other mentions you'd like to say? Any more honorable mentions?
I just like to point out, because if I don't say this, I won't remember to say it in another stream. I have a very complicated journey with the MCU of when, because I was like 6 or 7 when Iron Man 1 came out. So I wasn't very like cognizant of the internet or anything like that. So I wasn't like, oh, these movies are connected. So I just saw it in the cinema when it first came out. Didn't really think about it. Saw Iron Man 2 on TV randomly one night, and then the next MCU movie I saw after that was Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. I went to go see that in the theater, and I didn't expect anything from it. I didn't even pick up on the fact that actually I did see Avengers 1 after Iron Man 2, but I didn't see Captain America 1 or Thor 1 or anything like that. But yeah, I went to go see the first Guardians in the cinema, and I didn't think I'd like it. And then all my family ended up loving it, including me. And I was like, wait, these movies are connected? That's crazy. Then I went back within the next few months and just binge the MCU up to that point. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Then I went to go see Ant-Man in theatres. Then I went to go see Age of Ultron in theatres and Civil War. And I waited for Doctor Strange to come out on DVD and stuff. But yeah, I had a very complicated road with the MCU because I basically watched all of the Phase 1 films at one point or another out of order when I was like really young by just catching them by having starts on TV, but I didn't really catch that it was a connected universe until I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, this is really cool. It's the first connected movie universe. This is really cool. So yeah. One last thing that I'd like to say is that it was awesome meeting you, Jason, and I'm excited to make more content with you both.
Okay.
And I've got Hamzah's channel in the description below. You can go ahead and give him a sub. He's only done one video at the moment.
I thought you just started.
Yeah, I'll be releasing my singles soon at some point in the summer. So if you like rap music and R&B music, go over there and give it a listen once they come out. But when it comes to nerdy stuff, definitely go and give Jason and Adam a sub. They make great content, and I will continue to be joining them on stream to let my comic geek side out. Because my biggest issue with the YouTube algorithm is that it doesn't like it when you do more than one type of content. So, yeah.
But it was great to have you on. And I apologise for watching that the live stream went on for longer than I was expecting. That we had a lot to get through. There's a lot to talk about with the MCU. Do you have any honorable mentions, Jason?
One I have mentioned is Black Widow.
Black Widow, yeah.
I do really like that character. Scarlett Johansson is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I wish they would have made more movies earlier on. Black Widow.
I always say they should have moved Doctor Strange 1 up a year and put Black Widow in 2016 with Civil War.
Yeah.
That would have been the perfect place to put it, in my opinion.
Yeah, they waited too long to give her own movie. And I know Scarlett Johansson's had some trouble with MCU, so I don't think she's coming back because they had some fighting or something.
Yeah, because she came out recently calling Marvel a sausage fest, saying that there's not enough women who are treated right in the MCU, which
I think she was wanting more money or something. I don't know. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because that's such a great character. And,
Yeah.
I've loved her in all the movies.
Yeah. She was given a good send off in Endgame.
Yes. Yeah.
I would also like to send appreciation to Hawkeye as well. I feel like Clint Barton is a very underrated character, especially when he became Ronin. That really brought Clint a step up for me in terms of his how cool he is as a character. I actually really enjoyed the Hawkeye show. I know many people didn't, but I actually really enjoyed it because I think it added some much needed depth to Clint as a character, and it also gave us Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin again, which I was very happy about. So, yeah,
I've only got two honorable mentions. One is Black Panther, and the other one's Thor for the heroes. I've not got any more honorable mentions for the villains. But before we conclude this live stream, I've actually got a few ideas for the host of the MCU's future. So I think they should focus more on the films than the shows, because I know that everyone can have access to Disney Plus. Maybe use more practical effects and take more time with each release as well, and maybe do more quality over quantity. I'd say, and don't rely too much on the comedy and the humor of it, and maybe include less cameos as well.
Okay,
that thing they could probably improve the future.
I definitely think they should go back to only doing 2 films a year. I think that would be the best.
Maybe 2 films and 2 shows a year.
2 films and 2 shows a year, then it would be too oversaturated. The one thing that I really want them to do, because I think it's the thing that the MCU is sorely missing, is bring in the X-Men.
Yes.
For God's sake.
Still waiting for that.
They've been teasing it for so long now. They're like, this phase, we're gonna bring them in finally, and it's like, where are they? I thought we were getting Evan Peters back as Quicksilver, and then he turned up to be a throwaway role, and I was very sad about that because I was like, ooh, because that's one of the Fox castings that I'm actually really glad that they that I thought they were gonna keep because of WandaVision. So I was like, ooh, that's actually one of the Fox castings that I'm okay with them keeping. My top pick to play Wolverine has always been Taron Egerton. I would love him to play a superhero role, and for him to play Wolverine.
He needs to play a superhero.
Yeah, I think they've talked about him, haven't they? I've heard people talk about him.
Yeah, I think because of the Deadpool 3 teasers, there's rumors that maybe Hugh Jackman will come back to play Wolverine in MCU, but I think Deadpool 3 will be a one-off. I don't think Hugh Jackman will come back permanently because he's getting up there in age now, so he's probably gonna want to take a bit more of a relaxed schedule.
Yeah.
Maybe like 1 movie every 2 years rather than 2 movies every year. I don't get how the MCU actors are able to do that, of like going on press tours and like doing like 1 MCU movie a year, but also the other movie that they really want to do that year. Like, for example, this year Chris Pratt has Guardians 3 and Mario, and the press tours were like so close together. And I'm like, dude, how do you get any free time whatsoever?
Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, have a good evening, you guys. And
it was great to have you on, Hamzah.
With you soon, because I'd love to collaborate with you both a lot more.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll figure out something. But for now, that's it for the live stream. Thank you for joining, Jason, and thank you for joining, Hamzah. Do you guys have any final words? Excelsior.
There you go, Excelsior. Yeah.
Enough said. And all those other Marvel quotes. But until next time, everyone, don't forget to subscribe to Jason Hamzah. Until next time, everyone, ciao.